The blue glow of Earth filled the view screen as Commander Paul Bennett stood on the bridge of the EDF horizon. The year was 2145, and humanity had spread across the solar system with thriving colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. They were pioneers of their own backyard, but the vast universe beyond remained a mystery. "Commander, we're picking up an unusual signal." Lieutenant Amber Clark's voice broke the silence. "It doesn't match any known human transmission patterns." Paul moved to her station, his heart beating faster. For decades, humanity had sent messages into the void. Now something was answering. "Origin?" he asked. "Near Saturn's rings, sir, but it wasn't there a minute ago." Within hours, the news spread across Earth and its colonies. A massive ship had appeared near Saturn, broadcasting in dozens of Earth languages. They called themselves the Galactic Confederation, an alliance of species spanning hundreds of star systems. 3 days later, Paul stood in a grand conference room in Geneva as the alien delegation arrived. The room fell silent as they entered. The aliens walked on 3 different sets of legs. The tallest were reptilian creatures with scales that shifted colors in the light, the Draconians. Beside them floated crystalline beings that chimed softly when they moved, the Quartz. The third species appeared almost like walking clouds of purple gas contained in transparent suits, the Nebulary. "We welcome you to Earth," said President Helen Dias, stepping forward with open hands. The lead Draconian, Admiral Vex, looked down at her. "Your world is quaint," he said, his translator making his voice sound metallic. "We have observed your species for some time. You have potential, despite your obvious limitations." Dr. Lisa Wright, Earth's leading xenobiologist, watched from the side of the room. She noticed how the Draconians moved stiffly in Earth's gravity, how the Quartz seemed uncomfortable in the humidity, how the Nebulary's containment suits had extra shielding. "What limitations do you refer to?" Lisa asked boldly. Admiral Vex turned his yellow eyes toward her. "You humans are soft, fragile. Your muscles waste away without constant use. Your lungs can process only a narrow range of atmospheres. Your skin tears easily. Even a minor increase in radiation kills you. How have you survived this long?" Paul noticed the slight smiles exchanged between the alien delegates. For the next 2 days, negotiations continued. The Confederation offered Earth membership, but the terms were harsh: limited access to space travel, restricted technology sharing, and heavy trade taxes. "This is ridiculous," Paul said to Lisa as they left another meeting. "They're treating us like children." "Or like pets," Lisa replied. "But they're missing something important about humans. I've been studying their biology. The Draconians can withstand radiation that would kill us, but they can't handle temperature changes. The Quartz live for centuries but break easily. The Nebulary can transform their bodies but need special environments." "And humans?" Paul asked. "We adapt. We endure. We problem-solve in ways they might not understand," Lisa said. "I watched Admiral Vex struggle with a simple handshake. Her physical strength doesn't translate to survival skills." That evening, Earth's leaders gathered to vote on the Confederation's offer. The room was divided. "We should accept whatever terms they offer," Defense Minister Garcia argued. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours." "But at what cost?" President Dias countered. "Becoming second-class citizens in our own solar system." As the debate continued, Paul received an urgent message. A small Confederation vessel had accidentally destroyed a research station near Jupiter. 67 humans dead. When Paul shared the news, the room fell silent. "They're already testing us," Lisa whispered. President Dias stood. "We will accept provisional membership in the Confederation," she announced. "But we will also begin preparations. If they think humans are weak, they don't know our history." Admiral Vex looked pleased as he left Earth the next day. Behind him, Paul and Lisa watched from the control room. "They think they've won," Paul said quietly. "They don't understand what they've started." Lisa replied. 3 years passed since Earth joined the Galactic Confederation. The once exciting promise of alien contact had turned sour for most humans. Trade ships came and went, but the advanced technology humans hoped for remained out of reach. Lieutenant Eric Mason guided his cargo ship through the asteroid belt, his eyes tired from the long journey. As a pilot for the Earth Transport Authority, he carried supplies between colonies and observed alien interactions firsthand. "Another day, another delivery," he muttered, checking his instruments. His ship, the Star Runner, was small compared to the massive Confederation vessels that regularly passed him without acknowledgement. Today he was bringing medical supplies to the research outpost on Europa. "Lieutenant Mason, incoming transmission," said the ship's computer. "Source: Europa Station." The face of Kate Morgan, communications specialist at Europa, appeared on screen. Her expression was grim. "Eric, thank goodness it's you," she said. "We've got problems. The station was damaged last night by what they're calling a navigation error from a draconian patrol." "Casualties?" Eric asked, his stomach tightening. 3 dead, 12 injured. The draconians claimed their ship malfunctioned, but this is the 4th accident near human outposts this month. When Eric arrived at Europa, the damage was worse than described. An entire section of the dome was being repaired, and medical teams worked on injured colonists. Kate met him at the docking bay. She was tall with dark skin and determined eyes. "I saved something you need to see," she whispered, handing him a data chip. Later, in her private quarters, Kate showed Eric what she had discovered. "I managed to record their communications before the accident. My translator picked this up." The recording played. "Target practice complete. These humans break as easily as predicted. Continue to phase 2. Eric felt cold anger rise in his chest. This wasn't an accident. "None of them were," Kate said. "I've been tracking draconian movements. They're testing our defenses, seeing how we respond to attacks disguised as accidents. We need to tell Earth Command." Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Wright continued her research into the biological differences between humans and Confederation species. Her lab at the Global Science Center was modest compared to alien facilities, but her discoveries were significant. "Look at these results," she told her assistant, Ryan. "Humans recover from injuries at rates the Confederation considers impossible. Our ability to heal and adapt is extraordinary by their standards. Will it matter if they have weapons that can vaporize us?" Ryan asked. Lisa frowned. "They underestimate more than our biology. They don't understand our history or psychology. Humans have faced extinction-level threats before and survived." That evening, Lisa was summoned to a secret meeting with Commander Paul Bennett, now head of Earth's defense strategy. In an underground facility beneath Old Denver, representatives from Earth's colonies gathered. "Reports of accidents are increasing," Paul explained, showing a map of incidents across the solar system. "We have evidence these are deliberate attacks." The room erupted in angry voices until Paul raised his hand. "The Confederation is restricting our access to defensive technology while testing our vulnerabilities. They think we don't notice or can't respond." Eric and Kate joined the meeting via secure channel from Europa. "We've intercepted communications suggesting a larger operation," Kate reported. "The Draconians are planning something big, with tacit approval from the Confederation leadership." "What are our options?" asked the Mars colony representative. "Limited," Paul admitted, "but we've been preparing. Dr. Wright's research shows we have advantages they don't recognize. We've been secretly modifying our ships and training special forces." Lisa stood up. The Confederation species evolved in environments that made them physically stronger or longer-lived than humans, but none of them faced the constant threats that shaped human evolution. "We're adaptable in ways they can't comprehend." "Will it be enough?" someone asked. Paul's face was grim. "It has to be. Intelligence suggests we don't have much time. The Draconians aren't just testing us anymore. They're preparing for war." As the meeting ended, the representatives returned to their colonies with new urgency. A storm was coming, and humanity needed to be ready when it broke. The attack came at dawn, Mars time. No warning, no declaration of war. Red streaks of energy cut through the thin Martian atmosphere as draconian warships appeared in orbit. The main colony dome of New Armstrong, home to 15,000 people, was the first target. "Get everyone to the underground shelters," shouted Governor Frank Miller as the first explosions rocked the colony. The emergency sirens wailed across the settlement. The colonists had minutes, not hours. Parents grabbed children from beds, workers abandoned stations, and the mad rush to the deep bunkers began. Not everyone made it. The draconian weapons turned large sections of the dome to rubble, exposing people to the thin, cold Martian air. On Earth, Commander Paul Bennett was awakened by an urgent call. "Mars colony is under attack," said the breathless officer on screen. "Draconian warships, at least 12. They're targeting population centers." Paul's training took over. "Alert all Earth Defense Force ships. Contact the Confederation Council immediately. Then, with grim determination, activate Protocol Ares." Back on Mars, Chief Engineer Sam Cooper worked frantically to save what he could of the colony's infrastructure. Stocky and practical, with calloused hands and quick thinking, Sam had expected this day might come. "Reroute power to Section 5. He shouted to his team as they worked in emergency suits. "Get the backup life support running." In the colony's communication center, now running on emergency power, a young technician named Zoe tried desperately to contact Earth. The Draconians were jamming all standard channels. "Keep trying," Sam told her as he rushed past. "Use the old radio frequencies if you have to." On Europa, Kate Morgan received broken transmissions from Mars. She immediately contacted Eric Mason, who was docked at the Jupiter shipyard. "It started," she told him, her face pale on the view screen. "Mars is under attack. The Draconians have dropped all pretense." Eric's jaw tightened. "What about the rest of the Confederation? Are they helping?" "The opposite. I'm picking up Quartz ships blocking the routes between Earth and Mars. They're claiming it's for safety, but they're preventing rescue missions." In orbit above Earth, Commander Bennett faced the Confederation ambassador, a nebulary named Vox. "This is an internal security matter," Vox said, purple gas swirling inside his containment suit. "The Draconians report dangerous terrorist activities from your Mars colony." 15,000 civilians are not terrorists," Paul replied coldly. "This is an unprovoked attack on a peaceful settlement. Earth demands the Confederation intervene immediately." "The Confederation has voted for neutrality in this conflict," Vox said. Paul's eyes narrowed. "There is no neutrality in genocide." As Earth prepared its response, Dr. Lisa Wright analyzed the initial reports from Mars. The radiation signatures of the draconian weapons were unusual. "These aren't standard plasma weapons," she told her team. "They're targeting cellular structures specifically vulnerable in humans." On Mars, Sam Cooper made a discovery that changed everything. The mining equipment, designed to cut through Martian rock, could be modified to penetrate draconian ship armor. "Their shields are calibrated against energy weapons," he told the surviving colony leaders as they huddled in an emergency bunker. "But physical projectiles moving fast enough might get through." Across the solar system, humanity reacted with shock, then rage, then resolve. Earth formally declared war against the Draconians, while the Confederation maintained its supposed neutrality despite clearly supplying the enemy with weapons and intelligence. On the 7th day after the attack, Kate Morgan achieved a breakthrough. Using methods dating back to Earth's old wars, she established a secure communication network that the Draconians couldn't detect or jam. "Mars, this is Earth Command," came Commander Bennett's voice to the survivors. "Hold on. We're coming for you." In the ruins of New Armstrong, Sam Cooper looked up at the Draconian ships still orbiting Mars. "They think they've won," he said to his fellow survivors. "They have no idea what humans do when backed into a corner." As Earth's hastily assembled defense fleet prepared to launch, Dr. Wright called Commander Bennett with urgent news. "The radiation from their weapons," she said. "It's having an unexpected effect on human tissue. Some of the exposed survivors are showing accelerated healing and cellular regeneration." Paul looked at the battle plans spread before him. Earth was outmatched in technology, numbers, and firepower. But humans had something the Draconians couldn't understand. "Send all data to the fleet," he ordered. "The real war is just beginning." 6 months passed since the attack on Mars. The Draconians had expected a quick surrender from the humans. Instead, they faced something they did not understand. Lieutenant Eric Mason stood on the bridge of the Defiant, a former cargo ship now armed with weapons made from modified mining equipment. Around him flew 11 similar vessels, all piloted by men and women who had once carried food and supplies, but now carried humanity's hopes. "Enemy ships approaching, sir," reported his navigation officer. 3 Draconian cruisers." "Perfect," Eric said with a tight smile. "Just like we planned. Tell all ships to hold position behind the asteroid." The Draconians believed themselves superior in every way. Their ships were bigger, their weapons more powerful, their armor stronger. But Eric had studied their patterns for weeks. The reptilian aliens were predictable. They always followed the same tactics, never adapting. "They're passing the marker," the officer said. 10 seconds until they're in the dust cloud." Eric nodded. "Launch now." From the asteroid belt came hundreds of small objects, each no bigger than a human fist. Mining charges, redesigned by Sam Cooper to attach to ship hulls. The Draconians never saw them coming. Their sensors, designed to detect energy weapons, missed the simple metal objects until they exploded against their ships. "All vessels, attack pattern Delta," Eric ordered. His small fleet emerged from hiding, targeting the damaged Draconian ships, with weapons the aliens had dismissed as primitive. On Europa, Kate Morgan monitored the battle through her improvised communication network. When news of the victory reached her, she immediately sent word to Earth. Mason's fleet just destroyed 3 Draconian cruisers with minimal losses, she reported to Commander Bennett. The asteroid belt is secure for now. In his command center on Earth, Paul Bennett added another marker to the star map. Small victories were beginning to add up. "What's the status of Cooper's project?" he asked. "The first batch of retrofitted mining vessels is ready," his aide replied. "They're ugly, but the tests show they're effective against Draconian shields." "And Dr. Wright's team?" "Sir, you need to see this for yourself." Paul found Lisa in her laboratory, surrounded by medical data and tissue samples. She looked tired but excited. "We've confirmed it," she said without preamble. "The radiation from Draconian weapons alters human cellular structure in ways they never anticipated. Some exposed survivors are showing enhanced recovery rates and can now withstand radiation levels that would have killed them before." "Can it be replicated?" Paul asked. "We're working on a treatment now," Lisa replied. "But there's more. Remember how Admiral Vex mocked our need for sleep? It turns out humans can function on minimal sleep for weeks at a time. The Draconians require 12 hours of rest cycles every day. Their biology can't handle sleep deprivation like we can." On Mars, the survivors had become a resistance force. Sam Cooper led teams in hit-and-run attacks against Draconian ground forces. The aliens had superior weapons, but struggled in the thin Martian atmosphere and low gravity that the human colonists had adapted to over generations. "They still don't get it," Sam told his fighters as they prepared another raid. "They think because they're stronger, they should win. But humans have never survived because we were the strongest." The Confederation began to notice the unexpected human resilience. During a council meeting, a nebulary representative named Mist voiced concerns. "The humans were expected to surrender within weeks," Mist said. "It has been 6 months, and they have begun to win battles. Perhaps we have miscalculated." Admiral Vex dismissed this. "They are merely delaying the inevitable. Their resistance will break soon." But privately, some Confederation scientists started studying human history. and what they found disturbed them. Humans had faced near extinction many times on their home planet. Each time, they had adapted and emerged stronger. In his command ship, Eric Mason prepared for another attack. His crews were exhausted, their ships damaged, their supplies low. But when he looked at their faces, he saw something the Draconians would never understand. Ready for the next round? He asked his bridge crew. They nodded. Humans had never needed to be the strongest to survive. They just needed to be the most determined. 1 year into the war, humanity was still losing ground, but not in the way the Draconians had expected. For every human outpost destroyed, the aliens paid a heavy price. Eric Mason's fleet had grown to 30 ships, a mix of converted cargo vessels and captured Draconian craft. They hid in the shadows of Saturn's rings, preparing for their boldest move yet. "Target confirmed," said his second-in-command. "Draconian research vessel, minimal defenses, carrying weapons data." Eric nodded. "Begin approach. Silent running until we're in range." The opportunity had come through Kate Morgan's intelligence network. She had intercepted Draconian communications about a ship carrying plans for their newest weapons. If humans could capture that data, it might change the course of the war. 3 minutes to intercept, the tactical officer reported. Eric thought of all they had lost. The colonies on Ganymede, the outposts on Mercury, thousands of lives. Yet somehow, humanity fought on. Weapons ready, boarding teams standing by. The attack was swift and precisely planned. The Draconian research vessel never saw them coming. Eric's ships disabled its engines with Sam Cooper's mining charges, then boarded before the aliens could destroy their data. "We got it," Eric reported hours later, as his ships raced back to their hidden base. Complete weapon schematics and something even better: their shield frequencies. On Earth, Sam Cooper worked with a team of engineers to study the captured technology. He hadn't slept in 3 days, but the stimulants developed by Dr. Wright's team kept him alert. "Look at this," he told Paul Bennett, pointing to a holographic display. "Their weapons are powerful, but inefficient. They never needed to conserve energy or materials. We can build our own versions using half the resources." Paul studied the designs. "How soon?" 2 weeks for the first prototypes. "But there's more." Sam brought up another display. "Their ships are designed to intimidate, not to fight effectively. We can outmaneuver them using smaller, faster vessels." In her laboratory, Lisa Wright made her own breakthrough. The treatment derived from studying the radiation effects had progressed beyond healing. The enhanced cellular regeneration allows humans to operate in environments the Draconians consider lethal. She explained to a group of military leaders, "We can fight in conditions they can't even enter without special equipment." On Mars, what remained of the colony had gone underground, literally. The survivors had expanded the mining tunnels into a vast network where Draconian sensors couldn't detect them. From these hidden bases, they conducted raids against the occupying forces. At Confederation headquarters, the mood had changed. Admiral Vex faced difficult questions from the Council. "The humans were supposed to be defeated within months," said the court's representative, crystal body glinting with disapproval. "Yet they continued to fight effectively. Your assurances ring hollow." "They are merely delaying the inevitable," Vex insisted. "They have lost most of their territory. Yet they inflict casualties at rates we did not predict," said Mist, the nebulary. "And our costs mount daily." Back on Earth, Commander Bennett called together his top officers to present a daring plan. "Operation Watershed," he announced, showing a detailed map of Mars. "It's time to take back our first colony." The plan was ambitious, using everything humans had learned fighting the technologically superior enemy. It would require precision, courage, and something the Draconians still didn't understand: creativity. Kate Morgan provided the intelligence. Sam Cooper provided the technology. Lisa Wright provided biological enhancements that would allow human soldiers to operate in Martian conditions without the heavy equipment that slowed down the Draconians. Eric Mason would lead the attack itself, a multi-pronged assault that no alien strategist could predict because it defied conventional military logic. The Draconians expect us to target their command centers first, Paul explained. Instead, we'll hit their environmental control systems. Their biology makes them more vulnerable to cold than we are. As preparations for Operation Watershed accelerated, the courts made a surprising announcement. They were withdrawing from the Confederation war effort, citing ethical concerns about the conflict. Admiral Vex was furious, but could do nothing as 1/3 of his fleet departed. What the Draconians had begun as a simple conquest had become something unexpected, the first real challenge their species had faced in centuries. And humans were just getting started. 18 months into the war, Operation Watershed began. The mission to retake Mars would show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. Eric Mason led the first wave from the bridge of the Defiant, now upgraded with reverse-engineered Draconian technology. His fleet approached Mars from 3 different directions, using the planet's dust storms as cover. Status report, Eric called out as red dust swirled outside the viewports. All ships in position. His tactical officer replied. Ground teams ready for deployment. The Draconians had established their main base at the ruins of New Armstrong. They never expected an attack during a dust storm. Their sensors, designed for clear conditions, struggled to detect the human ships until they were directly overhead. Now, Eric ordered. All across the Martian surface, human ships dropped from the sky. Some carried soldiers. Others carried Sam Cooper's newest invention, environmental disruptors that targeted the heating systems in Draconian shelters. In the command center on Earth, Commander Bennett and Dr. Wright monitored the operation. The disruptors are working, Lisa reported. Temperature in Draconian habitats dropping rapidly. Paul nodded. They can't function effectively below freezing. Their biology won't allow it. On the ground, human soldiers wore lightweight suits designed by Lisa's team. The suits used minimal power but protected against the cold that was now crippling the Draconian forces. The alien invaders, used to their temperature-controlled environments, found themselves moving sluggishly as the cold seeped into their reptilian bodies. From the underground tunnels, Sam Cooper led the Mars colonists in coordinated attacks. They emerged from hidden entrances, striking Draconian positions before disappearing back underground. They can't follow us into the narrow tunnels, Sam told his fighters. Their size works against them here. The Draconians had never faced an enemy who used the environment itself as a weapon. Their military doctrine relied on superior technology and physical strength, not adaptation. Kate Morgan coordinated communications from orbit, using the network she had built to keep human forces connected despite Draconian jamming attempts. Eastern Quadrant secure, came a report from the ground. Western defense towers disabled. One by one, human forces reclaimed sections of the Mars colony. The battle was not easy. Draconian weapons still outmatched human firearms, but the aliens were fighting in conditions that drained their strength while humans pushed forward. Admiral Vex, watching from his flagship in orbit, could not believe what he was seeing. Impossible, he hissed as reports of retreating Draconian forces reached him. They are primitive. Weak. How can they be winning? His aide, a younger Draconian, hesitated before speaking. Sir, our analysis suggests they are using tactics we have never encountered. They do not attack as we would. They target weaknesses we did not know we had. Vex slammed his clawed hand on the console. Send in the Elite Guard. Crush them with overwhelming force. The Elite Guard, Draconians bred for combat, deployed to the surface in massive dropships. They carried the heaviest weapons in the Confederation arsenal. Eric Mason saw them coming. Just as we predicted, he told his crew. All ships execute Pattern Omega. The human fleet, which had been holding back, suddenly surged forward. They targeted the drop ships with precision strikes, using the weapons Sam Cooper had developed based on captured Draconian designs. On the surface, Lisa Wright's biological countermeasures proved their worth. The elite guard found their weapons less effective than expected against enhanced human soldiers. By the third day of fighting, the outcome was clear. Mars would return to human control. In the Confederation Council, news of the defeat spread quickly. The nebulary representative, Mist, addressed the council. "We have severely underestimated these humans," Mist said. "Their victory on Mars demonstrates capabilities we did not believe possible." A quartz observer added, "Their strength is not in their bodies but in their adaptability. They learn from every encounter and evolve their tactics accordingly." As Earth celebrated the liberation of Mars, Commander Bennett knew the war was far from over. The Draconians would return with greater force, desperate to prove their superiority. But for the first time, humans fought with real hope. They had proven what Paul had known all along. Humanity's greatest strength was the very fragility the aliens mocked. Because humans had always needed to overcome, to adapt, to find new ways to survive. And now the galaxy was learning just how dangerous that made them. 2 years after the first attack on Mars, the war had spread beyond the solar system. Humanity, once confined to their corner of the galaxy, now took the fight to Confederation worlds. Eric Mason stood on the bridge of the Retribution, Earth's first true warship built with adapted alien technology. Gone were the makeshift weapons and repurposed cargo vessels. This ship represented everything humanity had learned. "We're approaching the Draconian supply base," his navigator reported. "Their defense grid hasn't detected us yet." Eric nodded. "Maintain stealth approach. All teams prepare for deployment." The raid on this supply base was part of a larger strategy. Instead of directly attacking Draconian strongholds, human forces targeted their supply lines. Without resources, even the mightiest battleships became useless. "Launch when ready," Eric ordered. Small strike craft shot from the Retribution, each piloted by soldiers trained in Sam Cooper's new combat program. They moved in patterns no Draconian commander could predict because they defied conventional military logic. On Earth, Sam worked with a team of engineers on the next generation of propulsion systems. Using principles reverse-engineered from captured Draconian ships, but redesigned with human efficiency, these engines gave Earth vessels unprecedented mobility. "The test results are better than we hoped," Sam told Commander Bennett. "Our ships can now outmaneuver anything in the Draconian fleet." Paul studied the data. "Can we replicate this technology for all our vessels?" "Already working on it," Sam replied with a tired smile. "Production begins next week." Dr. Lisa Wright had traveled to the nebulary homeworld, something unthinkable just months before. After providing medical assistance during an outbreak that affected the gaseous aliens, she had opened diplomatic channels that the war had previously made impossible. "Your treatment saved thousands of our people," Mist told her as they met in a chamber designed to accommodate both species. "This gesture has not gone unnoticed among our leaders." "Humans believe in helping those in need," Lisa replied. "Even former enemies." Her diplomatic mission had another purpose: to share medical technology with the nebulary in exchange for their withdrawal from the conflict. With the quartz already neutral and the nebulary wavering, the Draconians were increasingly isolated. Kate Morgan's intelligence network had expanded across Confederation space. Her operatives gathered information and spread stories of human resilience and mercy, qualities that contrasted sharply with Draconian brutality. "We're receiving interesting reports," Kate told Commander Bennett during their weekly briefing. "Several Confederation member species are questioning Admiral Vex's leadership. They're concerned about the war's cost and direction." Paul nodded thoughtfully. "What about the surrender terms we offered captured Draconian forces?" "That's what's really causing waves," Kate said with a smile. "The Draconians always execute prisoners. Our policy of treating captives humanely has shocked many in the Confederation. Some Draconian units are surrendering rather than fighting to the death." The war was changing perceptions across the galaxy. Species that had dismissed humans as weak now watched with growing respect as these supposedly fragile beings fought with determination, creativity, and surprising mercy. On the Draconian homeworld, Admiral Vex faced a council of his own leaders. "The war has cost us 3 major colony worlds and dozens of outposts," said an elder Draconian. "Your promise of easy victory rings hollow now." "Humans are more resilient than anticipated," Vex admitted grudgingly. "But we will prevail through superior strength." "Strength alone is failing us," another council member observed. "These humans fight differently. They adapt to our tactics faster than we can develop new ones." As the council debated, news arrived of another human victory. This time, they had liberated a mining world using tactics that left Draconian forces confused and divided. The Confederation alliance continued to fracture. More species questioned the purpose of a war that seemed increasingly unwinnable. Commander Bennett received reports of these developments with cautious optimism. "We're not just winning battles now," he told his officers. "We're winning hearts and minds across the galaxy." Eric Mason's raid on the supply base succeeded beyond expectations. As his ships returned to human space, he received a message from an unexpected source, a Draconian commander requesting terms of surrender for his entire battle group. The message was simple. "We were told humans were weak. We were deceived." 3 years after the first attack on Mars, the final battle took place not in space, but in a grand meeting hall on neutral ground. The Galactic Confederation had called for peace talks, and humanity had accepted. Commander Paul Bennett led the Earth delegation. With him stood Eric Mason, Sam Cooper, Dr. Lisa Wright, and Kate Morgan. The team that had turned the tide of a war no one thought humans could win. Across the table sat Admiral Vex, his scales duller than when they first met. Beside him were representatives from the remaining Confederation species, including Mist of the Nebulary. "This council recognizes the delegation from Earth," announced the neutral mediator, a member of a species that had stayed out of the conflict. Paul stepped forward. "We come seeking a fair and lasting peace." The terms were presented and debated. The Confederation would be restructured with human input. Reparations would be paid for the attack on Mars. Technology would be shared equally among all species. "These terms are—" Admiral Vex began harshly, then paused. For perhaps the first time, he looked at the humans not with contempt but with grudging respect. "These terms are acceptable." In the months that followed, the galaxy changed. Eric Mason became Earth's first ambassador to former enemy worlds. His experiences in battle gave him unique insight into both human and alien perspectives. "We never wanted to fight," he told a group of young Draconians during his first diplomatic visit. "But we will always defend our right to exist as equals." Sam Cooper led a joint human-alien engineering corps that combined the best technologies from all species. His team developed new ships, habitats, and tools that worked with the strengths of each biology rather than against them. "The problem was never that humans or Draconians were better," Sam explained to his diverse team. "It was that we were trying to use the same solutions for different bodies and minds." Dr. Lisa Wright established an interspecies medical exchange program. The treatments she had developed to help humans survive the war now saved lives across the galaxy. "Every species has something to teach us about survival," she said during the opening of a new research center on the Nebulary homeworld. "And something to learn from others." Kate Morgan directed the new Galactic Intelligence Service, with representatives from all species working to prevent future conflicts before they began. "The best victory is the war that never happens," she told her agents during their first gathering. "We win by understanding each other." Commander Bennett oversaw the creation of a balanced peacekeeping force that would protect all worlds equally. The days of any one species dominating others were over. "Strength comes in many forms," he said at the commissioning ceremony. "We are strongest when we combine our different abilities rather than fight over them." Across the galaxy, humans became known not for physical power, but for resilience, creativity, and unexpected compassion. Schools on former Confederation worlds studied human history, particularly puzzled by how often humans had been underestimated throughout their own planetary conflicts. Admiral Vex, now working alongside his former enemies, finally understood what he had missed from the beginning. In a private conversation with Paul, he admitted his error. "We measured strength by the force we could apply," the Draconian said. "You measured it by how much you could endure, adapt, and overcome. That is why you won." 5 years after first contact, a classroom of alien children on a distant world gathered around their teacher. "Today we learn about humans," the teacher said. "Can anyone tell me what makes them unique among galactic species?" A small nebulary child raised a tendril. "They were thought to be weak, but they proved to be strong in ways no one expected." "Correct," the teacher replied. "And what is the most important lesson we learned from the Earth-Confederation War?" The children answered together, reciting the axiom now taught throughout the galaxy: "Underestimate humans at your peril." On Earth, as Paul Bennett looked up at the stars from his home, he thought about how far humanity had come. The aliens had thought humans were weak because of their fragile bodies. In the end, it was the very challenges of that fragility, the need to adapt, to innovate, to work together, that had made humans strong enough to change the galaxy. And as ships from a dozen worlds orbited peacefully above, the stars no longer seemed like distant, unreachable points of light. They were now neighbors in a much larger community that humanity had earned its place within.